Welcome back to the vlog. Welcome here to Hoskins, Papua New Guinea. My name is Ryan. We are heading across the island on a 28-minute flight, and I'm going to show you guys the most spectacular valley I've seen yet today in PNG. We're out here in Western Britain today, and yeah, I really want to show you this because it's really amazing. So let's go ahead and get started, get out of here. Lighter's on, fuel's on. Start. Oil pressure is coming in, NG's coming up over 14, so I introduce my fuel. Oil pressure sits there, now it's starting to come in, now that it's starting to light off. And just watching my ITT, that's just the temperature and the interstage turbine temperature. And alright, that's it. Generator on, prop forward. We can't get a hold of Moresby today. So I did a couple of flights over here earlier this week, so I scoped out the whole valley. It's incredible. It drops down like probably at least, I'm thinking 4,000 feet. It's just enormous landslides that have created it. It has like a turquoise river down and waterfalls coming out of the sides. It's pretty incredible. Moresby 8861, November Tango Zulu taxi.
November Tango Zulu, Moresby, go ahead.
Good morning, November Tango Zulu taxi Hoskins, Jacquinot Bay, 1 POP. Requesting any traffic.
November Tango Zulu, no reported traffic.
November Tango Zulu.
159.
I'm sorry, say again last.
November Tango Zulu, QNH 1011.
1011, thank you, November Tango Zulu. Alright, fuel cap selectors or controls, we'll leave TOS on for the time being. We're just going up to just 6,000 today and then right back on down. The flaps are set, indicated, and verified. Our radar's already turned on, at least on standby. Our trims are set up. We'll be airborne by the 1,500 foot marker. After takeoff, we'll pitch for 85 knots, consider EPL, consider feather. And we'll cut off, pull off, and shut off. These masters and crack my door. Crack my door because in case I hit the ground and it bends the fuselage, I still want to be able to get out in case if there's a fire or something. Alright, ignition and lights. All stations to Hoskins 127.1. Kodiak November Tango Zulu will be departing on runway 12 for an eastbound departure on climb 6,000. Requesting any traffic, Hoskins. Those are both clear. Ignition, condition. I'm going to also tell you about this low idle and high idle because I had some questions of what it's for. Why do you have a high idle? Why do you have a low idle? So let me just quickly show you. Right now my NG, which is like the percentage of the basically power output of the engine, is 54.5%. If I go high idle, brings that all the way up to 69.5. So 14% higher. Is it 56 or 55? 13 or 14% higher on the overall output of the engine. So we'll go over that in a minute. All right, ignition, condition, flaps 20, fuel and harnesses, 30 degrees out, so 1540, 1590. And we are 5,500 pounds, so rotate 55 and 64 if we had to come back in. All right, let's go. There's speeds alive, there's 40 continuing, there's 55, and airborne by the basically 1,000 foot. So I have 2 flights over there this morning, pick up some passengers, so I'm going to be empty both ways. But I figured that the first flight's going to work the best because these mountains that I'm going to be going right over top usually build up with clouds. Just make it a little bit more difficult to get in there and down inside the valley. So the first one, we're going to have the sun in our face the whole way. So it's probably not going to be as great on the cameras, at least getting to it. But once we get down inside of it, it's going to be pretty spectacular. There we go, over 700, we'll go 10 degrees of flaps. Our left-hand turn, go 0 and bring our prop to 2,000 RPM. I pass off, igniter's off, landing light off, and we'll leave our pulse light on for now. And the ITT was set at 740, and all I did was pull the prop lever back to 2000, and my ITT dropped all the way down right at 720. North Viet 861, November Tango Zulu departure.
November Tango Zulu, stand by. Tango Zulu, go ahead.
November Tango Zulu departed Hoskins, time 03, tracking 093, on climb below 7,000. Estimating Jacquinot Bay, time 31.
November Tango Zulu, confirm estimate Jacquinot Bay 2231.
Affirmative 2231, November Tango Zulu.
November Tango Zulu, below 7,000.
November Tango Zulu. Some of you guys have asked, why do I have a low idle and a high idle? Not all turbine manufacturers have a low idle and a high idle, but I'll tell you what I know, and it's probably very limited, but I'll try to say it in the most simplest terms. But basically, like I was showing you, in low idle you're at like 50, 55, 56%, whereas high idle you're almost at 70%, 69%. A turbine engine, in the simplest terms, is similar to like a turbo on a car that it has to spool up, and it takes a little bit of time for it to start rotating, right? If you're at 55% and you're coming into land at, like, let's say, a critical bush location, and you're at idle, then you want to go around or something, it's going to take so much longer for that thing to start spinning back up and getting you spooled up to actually have power enough to get out of there. I haven't done the test on like how much longer it takes if I was in low idle, but I would say just guesstimating, maybe 2 extra seconds, probably, maybe 1.5 seconds. But who knows? Maybe that is going to give you that extra 1 or 2 seconds and give you an extra so many feet to get over the trees if it was that critical. Basically, yeah, with a high idle, it's kind of like, I like to think of it as like anti-lag if you're into cars or not. It's basically like the turbo. It keeps it spooled up at all times. So rally cars have it, that's what that pop, 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 pop thing is. The back of the cars, they go around the corners, basically keeping their turbo spooled up. And it's kind of the same concept in the sense that it's not doing the same thing, but basically you have power on demand so much quicker, and that's why you have high idle and low idle. So when we taxi around in low idle, just so it's not pulling us along at nearly 70% of the power of the engine, just at idle. It allows you just to taxi in a lot lower. Also, what it does is with high idle, when you land and you go all the way to idle, you're on the ground and then you go into full reverse, it's going to spool back up into full reverse a lot quicker than as if you had it in low idle. It's also going to give you a higher, basically, torque number, basically more power output when you do have it in high idle when you go full reverse. So like I was saying, I actually flew this same route a couple times just earlier this week and scouted this out. Not that there's any power lines at all, but if you are going to be flying down valleys and things, it is good to make sure that you've flown over and you know what you're going to expect, how tight the turns are, how low you're expecting to get, things like that. So anyways, I have already looked at this valley a couple of times and just kind of seen where I wanted to go and stuff. So if you're thinking, hey, I'd love to do something like that in my airplane, then I highly recommend maybe just looking at something before you do it. Because in the States or other places, Europe, Australia, they do have power lines in a lot of valleys going across them. But thankfully not here. We'll go ahead and start our descent just so that we're cresting over the top right as we come right into the top of the valley. It's really nice that this valley's like directly on track for where I'm going today. But one of the unique things about this valley, and you'll see it, is that there's sections like almost a square mile where there's been like basically just like massive landslides. You can see it because there's like this huge ledge that's just dropped down. And it's so steep on the sides, it's just a lot of dirt. This section right here is just, it's so steep. Like we don't have that many cliffs per se here in Papua New Guinea, but this is nearly a sheer cliff.
Caution, terrain.
Oh, thank you.
Caution, terrain.
Whenever I get close to this yellow down here is when Betty starts letting me know that there's terrain ahead. Alright, there's autopilot off. And I'm going to just start on slowing down just so I'm not, because right when we get over top of these trees, then we start going down into the valley. Just the prop forward.
500.
And then here's the beginning of the valley. The nice thing is, this is pretty much my top of descent anyways, going down into Jacquinot Bay. So all these mountains here, just for reference for you guys, it's probably around, we're at 5,600 up to 6,000. So then we'll see how far it drops down, but I'm guessing it drops down probably the lowest, maybe 4,000 feet. So there's just a lot of trees in this area, but then the further on down we go, it just becomes even steeper and steeper, and then there's not that many trees. Yeah, look at that. That is incredible.
500.
And down below is like the most turquoise river. It's all the rivers here. All the rivers here are just so turquoise. They're just absolutely beautiful, and it's so steep down there. The water almost looks fake.
500.
Yeah, right here. This is the section that I was saying where the whole hill is just dropped down. It's so incredible. And they got waterfalls coming off up here. It looks like the water's pretty dirty though, coming off, or maybe it's just a stain coming off, but yeah. Incredible. I'm at 3,800 feet. I bet you this drops down another 2,000 feet. Maybe not quite, maybe 1,800 feet down below. So that brings you down to like 2,000 feet. So yeah, around 4,000, close to 4,000 feet. Difference coming down. Be at the highest. So I'm going to come on over here. That way I give myself a little more space, just kind of see around this next valley over here. Yeah, it's just ginormously wide. And as I am down in these type of valleys,
500.
I'm always keeping an eye on my winds down here. The G1000 calculates all of them. It just gives you an idea of maybe what to expect, how much turbulence you might have, if you want to go down low into a valley, where your updrafts, downdrafts might potentially be. This is dry season right now, so there's not much water coming out. Another one around here, the corner, I remember seeing yesterday, or 2 days ago, there was some waterfalls coming out of the hill. Because I'm not overly familiar, barely at all, with this,
500.
I'm not going down super low, just because I don't know the valley well enough. And you're like, oh man, what if you had an engine failure right now? Well, this is like all of PNG. There's pretty much not that many places to land, regardless of the altitude that you are. Yeah, it'd be really cool to hike up this river. It looks just absolutely beautiful, and how much
500.
turquoise and greens and blues and all kinds of, yeah, it's spectacular. You just hug over to this side. So when I come up to a corner like this, especially when you can't see around, you get up on this side over here. For one, it gives you a lot more space to turn, but it also gives you a lot more time to see what's coming up for you. There, now you can get a little better view of how crystal clear this water is.
500.
If you're a flight simmer, you'd like to check out this same valley for yourself, I will post the screenshot of my iPad track on my Patreon page so you guys can fly this exact same valley, because it's pretty cool. I'm sure it'd be pretty cool even on Microsoft Flight Sim. Now the valley gets really skinny here. We'll pop up over top of this hill here, head on down to Jacquinot Bay. Give this video a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed that.
500.
We'll bring our pop back to 2,000 RPM. Up our autopilot for a second so we can bring open the strip chart. All right, Jacquinot Bay, elevation 200 feet. So we'll turn it all the way down to 1,200 feet, which we already are. Right at pattern altitude. The length is 1,600 meters long, very long, 1% slope. 30 meters wide, looks like just basically a dirt road. So we'll be just landing on runway 34 because it's kind of uphill and then up to the terminal. So we'll just land and then coast on in. And yeah, nothing too special about Jacquinot Bay. And no, it's not what you think it is. It's spelled Jacquinot Bay. I'm sure you were thinking that though. All stations, Jacquinot Bay, 127.1, Cardiac November Tango Zulu, 8 miles to the west, 1200, circuit time, Jacquinot Bay, 32. All right, our landing speed is going to be 63 knots. Fuel selectors, our TOS is already turned off, our VREF, we'll flip our landing light on, our bypass. If we have to go around, it's power up, 20 degrees of flaps, pitch for 73, and reset IT to 740. Prop and harness. Already got our harness, we're 6 miles out. Our OBS, turn to runway 34, because I still don't even see the runway. It gives me a quick reference, because at the time I'm thinking 3-4, okay, it's this. This just gives it a line, and then I go, okay, yeah, I am coming perpendicular, and I can just enter into my left downwind. Where's V8861, November Tango Zulu, in the circuit, Jacquinot Bay, cancel SAR. November Tango Zulu. Jacquinot Bay, November Tango Zulu, be joining into a left downwind runway 34, Jacquinot Bay. Alright, landing clearance done, prop and harness is complete, flaps to go. 10 degrees of flaps. Bring our torque line back to about 400 today because we're empty. 20 degrees of flaps, below 120. A bit far out, let's go ahead and turn our base now. We'll probably just land like halfway down the runway because it's so long. We don't need to land at this end. We'll go full flaps, checklist is complete. I've got these on my website if you guys would like to pick one up for yourself for your flight sim setup or even for your own personal airplane or flight schools. Let me know if you have a flight school and you want to get a bunch of these for your planes. I'll hook you up for a discount for sure. But I really think they'll increase safety, keeping your eyes up and out. Turn and final. And we'll slow on down to 63 knots. 7 knots of crosswind. Looks like they finished cutting the area though, that's nice. Go low idle, get our flaps set up for the next takeoff here in another 10 minutes, as well as our trim. Hope you guys enjoyed that Valley flight. Be sure to check out my Patreon page if you guys want to fly that same flight. I've got probably 50 or 60 other flights on that page as well, all going into different bush locations. I have some airstrips that aren't even on there available for you guys to download and patch into your game and stuff, so for X-Plane as well for a few of them. So anyways, thanks for taking the time to watch, you guys. I sure appreciate it, and see you guys next time. And it does not look like my passengers are here yet.